It's no secret that the NFL wants offense to win out. Illegal contact was added as a penalty beyond 5 yards to make it easier for receivers to get downfield. The new low block rule, added just this year, prevents defenders from cutting down offensive linemen outside of the tight end box, making it harder to stop running plays working to the outside. Oh, and the roughing the passer calls. We all know about those. So yeah, the rules are stacked against defenses.
It's true.
But that just makes NFL defenses' creative solutions all the more impressive. That's what we've been talking about all series, and that's what we'll be talking about today. Welcome to X's and Shows. I'm your host, Ben Solak, and this is the final part in our mini-series on how NFL defenses are fighting back. The topic today, having your cake and eating it too. In part 1, we talked about Brandon Staley's defense, how he moved a player out of the box and placed him in the defensive backfield, tipping the scales of defensive philosophy to stopping the pass at the expense of stopping the run. And in part 2, we talked about the variety of too-high coverages teams are now running with that extra player in the defensive backfield, stifling downfield passing lanes and forcing explosive offenses to throw quick checkdowns. But as we know in the NFL, things are never neat nor easy. It'd be pretty sick if defenses could just line up with 2 deep safeties and 4 down defensive linemen, then always drop those 2 deep safeties into 2 high coverages, and always rush those 4 down defensive linemen and just stop all the good offenses. But this isn't Madden.
How is he running with a broken leg?
Spamming doesn't work, and lining up in the same look, play after play, will get you shredded play after play. The first problem? Always playing with 2 high safeties means you're almost always dropping 7 total players into coverage, which means you're only rushing with 4 down defensive linemen, and only rushing with 4 down defensive linemen means you're not blitzing. We've seen that model work well this year, but it does require that the 4 down defensive linemen are still able to generate pressure all on their own. That math isn't good. Remember when we talked about box counts, about defenses having a body for every gap in the running game? That same concern pops up in the pass rush. No matter how talented those 4 down defensive linemen are, they're still going up against 5 offensive linemen. That extra body on the offensive line can be used to double team an elite interior rusher like Aaron Donald. Throw in a chip from a tight end or a running back releasing into their route, and suddenly you've got to help against a top tier edge rusher as well. Elite players still get theirs, of course, but offenses have both the protection calls and the numerical advantages to make them more manageable across the course of a game. And usually a defense would try to blitz to reset the numbers and generate pressure, but it comes at the cost of those bodies in coverage. But what if we stopped thinking about the pass rush in a macro sense, 5 blocking 4, 6 blocking 4, 6 blocking 5, and thought about it instead at a micro level? Instead of trying to get enough bodies in the rush to generate a pressure, defenses can focus on getting one one-on-one opportunity for one pass rusher, and let the rest of the offensive line waste their time blocking somebody else. And, as an added benefit, still keep all the numbers in coverage that they've always wanted. This is the best of both worlds, having your cake and eating it too. This is the world of simulated pressure. So what is a simulated pressure? To see it in action, we have to go to one of the godfathers of the concept, Mike Zimmer. Zimmer has been a defensive coordinator or head coach for the last 2 decades. That level of consistent success is not an accident. The traditional look that typifies the Zimmer defense is a double mug look. A mugged linebacker is a linebacker that's been walked up to the line of scrimmage, standing in a gap and threatening to explode upfield. A double mug has 2 such linebackers placed directly into each A gap. Then come the defensive tackles, each in a B gap. Then the defensive ends outside of the tackles or the tight ends in the C gaps and D gaps. You can even walk a safety or cornerback up onto the line of scrimmage as well as a 7th additional threat to rush the passer. Now, against any defensive look, an offense has to set its protection, communicating from the quarterback in the center to the rest of the offensive line and tight ends who exactly is blocking who. Against this particular defensive look, that's really tough. All 7 players must be accounted for. Typically, the offensive line will take every down defensive lineman along with one of the potential blitz threats. The tight end in the back, should they be involved in the protection scheme, will each account for one of the remaining 2 blitz threats. Again, all 7 players must be accounted for by the protection scheme, because any of the 7 could come on a rush. But not all 7 are. The offense doesn't know who, but the defense does. It could be these 4 guys with these 3 guys dropping into coverage, or these 4 guys with these 3 guys dropping into coverage, or these 5 guys with these 2 dropping into coverage, or these 3 guys with these 4 dropping into coverage. Zimmer has put all 7 of these players along the defensive line to put the offense in a bind, forcing them into a protection check that keeps extra receivers into block and guarantees that someone will be left in a one-on-one. Then, when the ball is snapped, the rush comes. This is why we call these packages simulated pressures. In reality, they're simulating a blitz. Blitzes send linebackers and defensive backs after the quarterback, and so do simulated pressures. But blitzes also send the entire defensive line, and simulated pressures don't. They're still just rushing with 4, and they're still dropping 7 into coverage. It's just that the specific bodies on the rush and the specific bodies in coverage are different. Take this simulated pressure run by Phil Snow and the Carolina Panthers defense, which is one of the more surprisingly dangerous defenses of the 2021 season. 6 players are clearly threatening to rush, but don't miss the 7th, the nickel cornerback, over the receiver stack at the top of the screen. 4 are going to come, and the Panthers are going to play plain old cover 2 on the back end. But 2 of the players dropping into the short zones are going to be defensive tackles. Daquan Jones and Morgan Fox will drop into coverage, and while defensive tackles aren't the best zone coverage defenders, they do the job, mucking up space, preventing the quick throw, and ensuring the blitzers have enough time to arrive on the rush. That is the scary part of running simulated pressures. The numbers game has been equalized, but the bodies are in the wrong roles. Coverage players like defensive backs and linebackers are rushing the passer, and rush players, defensive ends and tackles, are dropping into coverage. So defenses can fudge the numbers, but it does come at the cost of miscasting the roles of your defense. But with uniquely versatile players, this becomes less of a problem. That's why Anthony Barr has been integral to Zimmer's defense for so long. Why Bill Belichick and the Patriots play a 260-pound middle linebacker in Donta Hightower to rush the passer, and a 250-pound outside linebacker in Kyle Van Noy to drop into coverage. Why Brian Burns running the silky, smoothest pass coverage drills you've ever seen at the NFL Combine matter to his evaluation. And it's not just linebacker hybrids. Big, explosive safeties like Jamal Adams, Chuck Clark, and Jabril Peppers aren't just top 15 in win rate this season among pass rushing safeties, they're also among the top 10 in total rush rate as well. That isn't a mistake. Their defenses maximize their abilities just as much as their abilities help maximize the defenses that they play in. Just as positionless basketball became the future, football is headed that way, at least on the defensive side of the ball. For too long, defenses have put all of their eggs in one basket, relying on the pass rush to win after dropping 7 into coverage, or relying on the secondary to win by playing man coverage behind all-out blitzes. Now, defensive coordinators can have their cake and eat it too. They can keep numbers in their favor, but still simulate pressure by blurring the lines between traditional defensive roles. The penalty rules may be ironclad, but the preconceived rules of how defense works are bendable, and defensive coordinators are bending them as far as they can go to get an edge on NFL offenses. The league's development comes in the swings of a pendulum, and as defenses dedicate themselves to stopping the pass, the pendulum is finally swinging back. I've been Benjamin Solak, and this has been X's and Shows. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe to the Ringer YouTube channel for more NFL content.